is an interview with Oliver C. Kallio, Kallio, Sandy Kallio, 1315 North Lawrence Street, Ironwood, Michigan. Interview conducted by Dr. Charles Johnson, Center for the Study of War and Society, on July 13th at Mr. Kallio's home. July 13th, 1997. Yeah, what I usually do is just start out asking what your life was like before you went in the service, of family or school or whatever, and then just we go for as long as we go.
Yes, well, we were born in Newport here actually, and 6/25/11, and went to school. I remember as a kid, I went to Old Barber School
Up in Newport?
It was where the outdoor theater is.
Okay, yeah.
That's where Barber School was. It was a gray building there in that area. It's been torn down for years ago. Anyway, from there we had tragedy in the family, and mother burned to death.
I had heard about that.
And after that, our father made contact with some people in the farm, and we moved down into the Irwin Township. Lived on a farm there for a while. This is going to get dragged out, those early days. From there, I went to school there at the Irwin Township for a while, a couple of months. Then we were moved to the Corpy family. They had a dairy farm on the South Davis Road, and we went there. And our father had us moved there rather, and went to school there and worked on the farm and with the Corpys, and went to Bessemer school system, of course. Other side, it was in the other township, Bessemer Township. And graduated from Bessemer High School in 28. After that,
did you have time to play sports at all in high school?
Very little.
Mostly on the farm?
I worked on the farm,
yes.
And I was a little guy anyway. I was about barely 100 pounds when I graduated. 16 years old and barely 100 pounds, so you don't play much.
Not
maybe tennis once in a while. But anyway, I worked on the farm then for a while, and there were no, at that time, as far as we knew, there were no scholarships available. And there was no interest in sending me further to school after high school. So,
but even getting out of high school is something back in the 20s
well,
for a lot of folks.
It was 28 then, yes. It was in a way, all right. But I was stuck on flying, so I ordered and worked on it, and a home study course in aeronautics from Lincoln Flying School. I remember E.J. Sias was the one who used to correct my papers. Anyway, that for a few years, and then 33, summer of 33, I went to woods work. It was a farm, or old farmer was doing wood logging, and went down there and got a job and worked there for a while, and then WPA for a little while in December, and then decided I was going to take off, and went down to the cities and went to see E.J. Sias at Lincoln Flying School if he had a job for me. No such a thing, so I went back to Chicago and enlisted at Fort Sheridan, trying to get into the Army Air Corps at the time.
What year was that, dear?
This was 34.
34.
1934. And they said there were no openings in the Army Air Corps then, so the next best thing is if you're in the service, well, you'll have a better chance of transferring, which I did then. I signed up with the 61st Anti Artillery, and lo and behold, I was with them, and then the World's Fair came on, and we were just out of boot camp, and they made infantrymen out of us, and sent us to the World's Fair and lived in tents from March till November '34. And then the following year, finally got a chance to transfer to the Air Corps in August 35. Went to Hawaii for 2 years. Went to New York and sailed around Panama and Frisco, and then to Hawaii.
That's a long ways from home for somebody from the UP.
Yes, but anyway, I was familiar with the Finnish language for some reason or other, and I could write it. And well, I'd gone to summer school, summer times, and learned the Finnish language to the extent where I could read it and write it quite fluently, evidently, because numerous people have said they could understand my writing. So anyway, transferred to the Air Corps, and then got to Hawaii and got into a bomber squadron out there. Got to know the workings of aircraft, and I had studied aircraft engines quite a bit, and air navigation. We worked the mornings, and 12:30 the hangar doors were closed, and the afternoons were for whatever we wanted to do. By then I had grown up to 185 pounds, doubled my weight practically, and I was taking part in baseball and track and everything else. And I tried to get a cadet appointment. Well, I failed the first time, and then I tried another time, and I failed that, and lack of accommodations, they always wrote on the application. Then finished my tour out there in 2 years in Hawaii, and then came back, and I was out for a little while, and then decided to try it again, see if I can't get that cadet appointment. So I went to Randolph Field and as a mechanic, and so I could work on the aircraft and school squadron there. Tried to get the cadet appointment again, but nothing doing.
The Air Force was so small.
19,000 only at that time. Yes. So we came August of '38. I decided to purchase my discharge and get away from there if I wasn't going to be able to make the flying cadets. So I came back home for a while, and by then, well, in '39 the war broke out.
Before you get to how would you purchase a discharge? I don't know.
Clothing, I had clothing allowance.
Oh.
And if the clothing allowance was big enough, why I could add a little cash on there and purchase discharge.
Okay, I didn't know about that.
I can show you. I can show you the discharge papers. It says purchase discharge on it. But it was they were all honorable discharges. Anyway, I wrote to Canada in 1939 and asked if they were taking foreign volunteers. They said they weren't yet then, but then the following spring of 1940, I had a letter from them that they were taking foreign volunteers. So, June of '40, I'm up in Canada.
Why were you interested in getting into the war?
Because I wanted to fly.
Okay.
I knew I could be useful as a pilot, and if nothing else, as a tail gunner, because I had qualified as expert air gunner when I was with the bomber squadron in Hawaii.
Okay.
So that was. I knew I was familiar with flying to the extent I had flown quite a bit while I was at Randolph, made cross-country trips and everything else. As a mechanic in the back seat, going with the pilots who needed a mechanic along if they needed a 40-hour on the aircraft, why, he'd be handy. So, and Hawaii, why, from island to island we were flying, and qualified as air gunner, so nothing wrong with that. A good air gunner, any Air Force can use him.
Oh, yeah.
So they assigned me to technical school at London, Ontario, and went there, and I was posted to Trenton as a mechanic, and worked strictly on aircraft, and came along noticed that they were increasing the pilot training program, and they wanted pilot applicants to apply for the vacancies that they saw coming up. And so next thing I know, I was at the Manning Pool in Toronto, and then from there to Windsor for elementary, and to Camp Borden for service flying, and overseas in August of 41.
I imagine you were excited about
Oh,
finally
well,
getting to fly.
Well, I think that had been like a dream come true. So, yes.
What kind of planes were you flying?
Well, the Fleet Finch was the first small biplane, small Stearman type biplane, that we trained on at Windsor. And then at Camp Borden was the same thing, same aircraft that Randolph Field had. I was familiar with them, but the AT-6s, the Harvard AT-6, and so graduated above average, and got a commission right away, and so overseas in August of 41, and then posted to 55 OTU in North Britain, northern part of Britain, and up in County Durham, way up north up there, and got held back as instructors, 4 of us who had been schooled for quite a bit together at the same time. Friends. One was from Calgary, one was from Toronto, and the third one was from Buenos Aires. And the 4 of us were held back there as instructors and staff pilots until January of 42, and then they sent us out to the Middle East, of all places, to Cairo, Alexandria, Cairo actually, and then from there we went to gunnery school, the final last bits of gunnery, and polishing off, and then posted to 33 Squadron in with the Desert Air Force.
Oh, what kind of planes?
Well, old Hurricanes, the same thing you were flying at us with.
How was a Hurricane to fly?
An easy aircraft to fly, yes. But then shortly after, some Spitfires came on order, and so as a matter of fact, the Spitfire squadron came on, 92 Squadron came on to the same airfield with us. And we were part of the Desert Air Force, and well, we moved up from Sidi Hanish. I should say we moved back from Sidi Hanish, back to El Hammam, to close to Alexandria on the retreat, which everybody seemed to know about. Of course, the first, maybe I should mention one of the early day combat efforts. I was in a shallow climb behind a 109, and I was firing at it, and I just as I realized that I had it, there was another 109 firing at me from high up above, and he was coming down on me, and he fired 6 rounds, and they went between me and the gas tank in my left wing, which was less than a yard from my head, so to say.
Uh-huh.
The six holes in that aircraft. When I got home, I figured that I had done the wrong thing. I was flying too slow in a climb after that. But anyway, he made the mistake of coming too close to me, and just as he turned, after he passed me up, he turned to the left, and I turned after him and shot him down too.
Uh-huh.
So there were two confirmed there.
Two confirmed early. That's
it was at the south end of the Ghazala line at the place they called Bir Hakim.
uh-huh.
But I had been out quite a few times before that already, so it wasn't. Maybe it was around June. We got into combat in March.
Did you fly with a wingman, or were you? How did?
As a wingman at first, and then by September I was a leader. They found I was adept at leading, so they made me a flight commander, and the missions piled up, sorties piled up, and by December of '42 they gave me a Distinguished Flying Cross.
Oh.
And I hacked a few dive bombers down by then too, and quite a few in fact. We didn't count them. I got I have a logbook here that I could refer to that somewhat, but I didn't record any of the kills in the logbook. Somehow that was distasteful to me to record them. So I didn't do it. A lot of them did, but I thought I don't have to. So
Don't have to keep score that way. Eh?
yes, well, that was the thing. Sometimes that scorekeeping was made a person a bit foolhardy in what he was doing. So then, you're back and to El Hammam, and that's when the big push was in the early winter of '42. El Alamein sparked up, and we started pushing Rommel out of Africa, and by November, we were, by Christmas, I should say, we were up at Benghazi.
How did were the German pilots and German planes pretty good?
Oh, there's no doubt of that. They had to be good because they were all aces, and they had good aircraft. They had early experience in some of them in the Spanish War. Mm-hmm. So they were good. There's no doubt of that. But we always considered we were equally as good, if not better. So, when we got better aircraft, once we got the Spitfires, by the time we reached Benghazi, we started getting a few Spitfires on squadron. And I remember one night mission I was sent up late. Well, it was later than this. The sun was down already then, and there were some bombers attacking a convoy, ship convoy that was going to. What was the name of that place?
Malta, or
not Malta, but the North African coast there across from Benghazi. What was the name of that?
Not Tobruk.
No. This was farther west. Oh gosh, getting old. Oh, what in the world was the name of that? It was quite a big city, actually.
I don't know the name of enough of the port cities in the Mediterranean.
Anyway, the convoy was going there and was supposed to be going there, and the German bombers had been shadowing them all day long, and come nighttime they began to attack them. And I got up there. I was given different vectors by the sector radar control, and the so-and-so vector to this course, and arrive over the convoy at 10,000 feet. And I followed their instructions, got there at 10,000 feet and over the convoy, and lo and behold, I see the flak firing at the aircraft in front of me. Then the sector control told me that you should be able to see the aircraft in front of you. The flak is going up at it. I said, sure enough, they're right here. I'm right with them. I said, almost immediately began firing at one. I was on its tail and started firing, and they all bailed out, and I saw their parachutes, and the aircraft was going down, and then I saw another one and went after it, and I was firing at it. And, well, I never knew whether I got it or not, and it could have been a problem, but I was recalled and told to go home, and by then it was pretty dark and didn't have very much gas left in the tanks. So went home and didn't have very much gas in the tanks, is right.
You just barely got home?
Just barely made it home. I had a wingman going with me, but he got lost on the way, and in the different vectors, and he wasn't hearing. His radio wasn't so good, and so he got lost, and he returned to base. He returned to Benghazi, and well, it was just near Benghazi. It was Termali, I think, not Termali. Another field close to Benghazi. Anyway.
Let me interrupt. Were there quite a few non-Canadians in your squadron?
Four of us Americans in the squadron, and then about 8 Canadians. It was more Americans than Canadians, and there were English in there. There were 4 Englishmen all told in the squadron. So it was an RAF squadron, but
really international.
International, yes, right. And we used to, just for the fun of it, evenings in the mess, gang up and sing our national anthems, sort of thing. And drinking beer and singing the national anthem.
Was the food pretty good?
Oh, it was reasonable, yes. But
and the beer? Was the beer pretty good?
Plenty of beer, Canadian beer especially, and the whiskey. We had scotch. All the pilots were issued a bottle of Flat 69 a week. Yeah, so the living wasn't tough. I mean, of course we.
Did you do mostly fighter against some German aircraft?
Some escort work.
Some escort. Did you do much strafing and attacking ground targets? Or?
Well, very little strafing. Though at one time before I reached 33 Squadron, they had been at a place. What was the name of that place? It was an oasis, Jerabab. An oasis way deep in the desert, and they had been there for a couple of months, and they did strafing on the road between what you call Ajadabia and Tripoli. Tripoli was the name of the town
Tripoli
I was
trying
to think of earlier. Yes, between Ajadabia and Tripoli, along that highway there, the coast road. They had done an awful lot of damage by strafing in that short period they were out there. But that, of course, when we got pushed back to El Alamein, why, that ended. Well, from Benghazi back to posted to Helwan maintenance base in just outside of Cairo, and testing aircraft there, Hurricanes and Spitfires and rebuilt aircraft, you know.
Oh, uh-huh.
And Baltimore's, and we had a few Bristol Blenheims there, and then one old Vickers Valencia, a biplane bomber, so-called, big old twin-engine biplane bomber, and that was my favorite aircraft. I used to get a kick out of flying that thing, and big old biplane. It was like the Keystones we had at Luke Field in Hawaii quite a few years before. It was the same kind of aircraft, big old biplane with two engines up there, and they flew just like Piper Cubs, practically the same thing. It's fun thinking about those things.
Did you have trouble with sandstorms out there?
Oh yeah, well they were the big problem was the guns. Guns used to misfire or not fire at all. And that sand was a big bugaboo for us. And then air firing, pneumatic firing wasn't, in my estimation, the best thing either.
Could you explain that to me a little bit?
Pneumatic firing by air pressure.
Oh, okay.
Instead of electrical, like the American aircraft always used electrical firing systems.
Mm-hmm.
And 50 caliber machine guns. They didn't use any 303s. We were using 303s.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to be synchronized, of course, to fire at 200 yards. The lethal density had to be the size of an aircraft, about 3 feet high and 3 feet wide, sort of thing. The body of the aircraft. That was part of the maintenance effort to bring them up to that lethal density at 200 yards. You had to bring the guns in and throw them in. Well,
so mostly what you did was fight against German Air Force or protect.
There were some Italian aircraft there too. Occasionally Mach-E 202s and some CR-42s and some such aircraft. But I never ran into them. I ran into, on one occasion, 4 Me-109s, 4 abreast, and I was within 50 yards of their tails, and I couldn't get around out of a gun.
Huh.
Oh, that's fun. We were at about 18,000 feet when I remember. And so I just squealed on home.
You can get in real trouble in a situation like that.
Yeah.
The guns just didn't fire?
Didn't fire. But then when we got, I was at, I should say, at the maintenance base there testing aircraft. And mainly to see that they ran okay, and the Baltimores, they were light bombers, medium bombers. The South Africans used them quite a lot, and I don't know, the RAF had some squadrons of them too. That's what we were mainly there for, testing those. Well, after a few months of that, come September of '43, I'm requesting combat again, and got loose and sent up to Sicily, caught up to the squadrons in Sicily, and was assigned to 601 Squadron as a flight commander. So we didn't stay in Sicily very long, moved up into Italy, to Gioia, and then Foggia bases, and we were there in fall of '43, and we started doing 601 Squadron. We had Spitfire 8s then, good aircraft, as good as anything that flew there in those years. And Spitfire 8s, and did a lot of strafing. Flew up the coast of along over the Adriatic up to Ancona and points north, and make the landfall and come down the coast road and strafe everything you could find. And then go deeper in and strafe some more, and sometimes go up into Aquila and Avezzano was a big reclaimed marsh area, and there was a big railroad yard up there. And I remember one Sunday morning we caught four trains in that railroad yard there. Clobbered them, of course, and a whole bunch of us. I was leader then. And shortly after, on one occasion, we caught a train up there, a fuel train, 13 tankers and a local on each end, and we set that all on fire. Over 100,000 gallons of fuel, whether it was aircraft fuel or we understood later that it was aircraft fuel that was in there, so we had done ourselves a good favor.
Yeah, that's particularly nice.
100,000 gallons of fire. Yeah. Well,
did you ever think about going from the
transferring back?
RAF to the U.S.?
Well, yes. When we were with 33 Squadron, yes, we went to see them about that, and they said, "Take, if you transfer now, you fellows have 150 missions under your belts already. Why transfer? You'll be if you stay back here, you fly DC-3s for us, or if you go back to the States, you'll be the fighter pilot instructors." Well, to a fighter pilot, that was a slap in the face.
Uh-huh.
So we just kept right at it. Yeah, like I said, about a dozen of us went to see them at Middle East headquarters when the 15th came out there.
Mm-hmm.
15th Air Force.
Yeah, U.S. 15th Air Force.
Yes. They had a wing of fighter aircraft there too. They were right alongside us occasionally, fighting the same war we were.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they didn't need us, I guess. Earlier on, some of the Americans transferred from the RAF transferred to the Eagle squadrons in Britain already.
Mm-hmm.
But I was with the Canadians. I said I'll stick with them. I didn't. Well, it was very much the same as our Air Corps was before when I was in it. So there was so little difference in it that there was no point to transferring anyway.
You probably had made some pretty good friends too, people you could trust.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was important. Well, there were four of us. We were still together in the squadron until 33 Squadron, until the fellow from Toronto got killed in an accident. Aircraft accident at Gamblet, and on the retreat, the fellow from Buenos Aires got shot down and he was taken prisoner of war. And when the two of us, the fellow from Calgary and I, were posted together to testing at Helwan, at the maintenance base there, and then he took sick with an ear infection, and so by the time September came along, when I was ready to go back into combat, the others were left behind. And when I was in Italy, I had from the fellow from Buenos Aires. It's better that I don't even mention his name, really. I think. Yes, I think it's better. Because we had been for quite a while together, and matter of fact, we slept in the same tent at Gambler. The four was Toronto, Buenos Aires, and Calgary, and Ironwood. We were looked like we were destined to stick together through the war, almost, until a fellow from Toronto got killed, and Brian is shot down and taken prisoner, and one from Calgary came down with that ear infection. So Ironwood was by himself going up to Scotland up there, and new aircraft and everything. Oh, geez, how those fellows would have loved that. Brand new Spitfire 8, beautiful aircraft to fly, and fast. Good, 300 plus. Oh man, it was fun flying those aircraft. Yeah, that's what it did. Then all the rest, well, we moved from the east coast, from Foggia in January up to Marcianise. It was just north of Naples, and we were going to cover the Anzio landings. So we did, and we covered Anzio the first day it went in, and in January of 44. And then
Did you have a lot of opposition from the Germans in the air around Anzio?
Quite a bit. Of course, we were getting close to Rome by then, and I had on one occasion while I was still I was commanding 145 Squadron when we were out there, come to think of it. So I had become a squadron leader by then too, and I commanded a squadron in 33 and commanded one in 601 Squadron, and then became squadron leader with 145 Squadron, and that's the one we took to cover Anzio. And February comes along, February the 20th, and I come home one day, and I had shot down an FW-190 just outside of Roma, as I remember. And he, just as soon as that ammunition hit him, he bailed out. So he was landing on our side, so we didn't bother him. He was landing on our side of the lines. I don't know why that 109 was by himself, stooging around there like that. Anyway, he found out.
Not a healthy place to be.
Yeah. And we moved up Italy, and we were still at Anzio, come to think of it, and I had the crash there at Anzio. I landed in hospital for 4 months with a broken knee.
What was the cause of the crash? What happened?
My undercarriage didn't stay down. So the lights showed that they were showed green, that they were down, and both wheels were down and in place, and the left wheel wasn't. And I went to go around again, and I shouldn't have. If I had realized that left wheel wasn't underneath, I should have just let her stay down. But I went to go around again, and about 50 feet, she spun in on me. Couldn't take it. I didn't have flying speed anymore. That's what happens when you don't have flying speed. So landed in hospital, and I was in hospital for 4 months, and the squadrons were up, had moved up just outside of Florence when I caught up to them at Firenze, I believe, or either Firenze or another airfield near Florence.
Was the medical care pretty good in the hospital?
Oh yes, absolutely, top notch. It was a Canadian hospital, actually, Canadian-run hospital. Yes, everything was top notch.
Did you have trouble getting out of the airplane after the crash, or?
No, I climbed out by myself. I was able to, yes. For some reason or other, you're always worried about fire, you know.
Oh, yeah.
In those conditions, and climbed out of the aircraft, and of course I was hopping along, and the ambulance was there in no time, and into the hospital. And the doctor I had was from he had spent his doctoring years in the Bahamas.
Oh.
And he was the bone doctor. So
did they have to do surgery on the knee, or?
No surgery was necessary. All it needed was setting and a cast up to the hip high cast. So it wasn't too awful painful. The worst part was as soon as the cast came off in about 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks, I in therapy to get movement. Yeah.
Imagine a lot of pain with that.
That was painful. Trying to bend the knee. That time. So we finally got to bending the knee and start itching to get back into combat.
Uh-huh.
Somebody thought I was crazy, but that was the only way I could see it, you know. And lo and behold, comes June and birthday and another birthday, and just about that time I'm posted to take over 417 Squadron, Canadian Squadron, which was in the same wing all the time, had been for ever since El Alamein, had been together. 4 squadrons, 92, 601, 145, and 417. So 417, and we started dive bombing. The first target was just a little northeast of Florence, a big old red barn. First bomb I ever dropped, smashed that barn to kindling. Yeah, I remember my wingman telling me he was looking at the red barn, and pretty soon it just splattered all over the horizon. Yeah. Oh. A New Yorker was my wingman that day.
New Yorker?
Yeah. He was in the RCAF too. Yeah. So there were a lot about one fellow was from Green Bay, actually. One from Cleveland. A couple of them from Cleveland, come to think of it, that I knew in the RCAF. And then one fellow I knew quite well. I met him later in Europe too, as a wing commander, and he was attending Princeton University when. I don't know for sure whether he was Canadian or American. He went up and joined the RCAF.
Were you a captain by this time, or
Squadron leader?
Squadron leader.
Major equivalent.
Major equivalent.
Yeah. And, well, the pilot officer's second lieutenant equivalent. The flying officer was first lieutenant equivalent. Flight lieutenant was the captain equivalent. The squadron leader was major equivalent.
Okay, I didn't know what the
then wing commander was light colonel, and group cap was full colonel. Those were the old designations with the RAF, RCAF.
Did you find most of the guys you were flying with good pilots and good people? Or?
Oh, yes, they were good. Oh gosh, yes. Some of them had to be disciplined once in a while, but
discipline for what kind of things?
For negligible things they did when they were in town, and make fun of somebody or had fun with somebody, some civilians, and that sort of a thing. Nothing really serious. I mean, but you always had to invoke some kind of a discipline to make them heal the mark, toe the mark, or whatever. Yeah. Then had quite a few crashes shortly after I took over. Had to.
Crashes where were people just getting careless or lack of training or?
Nobody had done any amount of dive bombing, and that was our main purpose then. We were dive bombing.
I read somewhere where it's easy to not pull out.
Yeah, well, the thing was, that was with the P-38s. The Spitfire was a maneuverable aircraft. You could, from the ideal altitude was anywhere from 7,500 to 8,000 sort of. Going to a vertical dive and drop your bomb at 1,500 and pull out. And always do that parallel to the line, so when you're pulling out, you're coming over your own lines. Okay. That was orders with us anyway.
What sort of targets did you hit with?
Anything that the forward fighter controls demanded. They had, by that time, it had developed to the point where they had former fighter pilots up there at forward control, and they were designating targets, and they'd ask us, can you see that so and so at designation so and so, and if we saw the target, they'd say go down on it. And that Dixie cab rank bombing, dive bombing stuff.
Dixie cab rank.
Yeah. Yeah, you go out there and sometimes you have to wait for a target. Target for a little while. The best way was to fly over the bomb line at vertical at 90 degrees and then turn around and come back. And when you came back, then come to our side of the bomb line and then approach it another time. And then by then they usually had a target for you. And that was cab rank. That's what cab rank was all about. You waited your turn, and as soon as they finished their run, you went down. You were usually in formations of either 4 or 6, never more than 6 in a flight. So you went down and dive bombed your target. And evidently, we were doing pretty good because they liked the way we were doing it. So we kept at it for a while, and moved over to the Adriatic side again for change. And on one occasion, dive bombed both ends of a tunnel and caught the train in the tunnel. And then railroad yard outside of Bologna was one of the main targets, heavily guarded by flak, of course. And
You had all different kinds of flak, 20
well,
millimeter and 40 and...
Yes, 40 mil, mostly 40 mil, and then the Ju-88, or the not Ju,
Yeah, I know.
88
millimeters.
88 millimeters. They were deadly. And it was like going through coal piles sometimes and dive bombing. They set up a barrage down below you and hoping that you'd be flying into it, you know. I did lose one wingman. I got a direct hit. It was tough.
Yeah.
Tough. But he was the only one of course I know it was meant for me, but being the leader. But that was the name of the game. That's part of the game. So until November, we kept dive bombing mostly, and occasionally we went out and strafed, some dive bombed and then strafed. And sometimes strafed a little bit and then dive bomb. Dive bomb on the strafed on the way down and dive bomb on the way down. Yeah, it was almost got to the point where we could see the war ending before very long. We had pretty far up Italy. Bologna is not too far from the northern frontier of Italy. So.
How did you feel about the war going to come to an end?
Oh, a good thing. That's what we were there for. Of course, then some of us signed up to. If they needed, we'd go to the Pacific. If like I say, if we were needed, if we were wanted out there. But when we got home, I was at home when not Pearl Harbor, but I was at Udsworth when Pearl Harbor happened way back in December 41. Anyway, I was at home on leave. I'd come back and when atom bombs were dropped, I was at home then in England.
Were you in Italy right up to the end of the war in Europe?
No. Well, November 44, I came back, and then okay.
Came back to the States? Or?
Came back to the States, and I enjoyed a big party at one of the friends' homes down here on the Harding Road, and then went back, reassigned to Britain, and then into combat again with what wing was that now? Oh gosh! I just had a chance to from an airfield there just before VE Day. I had a chance to do a reconnaissance of the German city. Started with an H.
Hamburg?
Hamburg, yeah. Had a chance to do a reconnaissance of Hamburg, and then saw later that day a Canadian bomber pilot came along, and he wanted to see what damage they had done at the submarine pens in Hamburg, and they had dropped a 22,000 pounder right between two pens, and it had demolished both pens and both submarines. A submarine in each pen. So that was worth seeing, you know. That was the following day, the war ended.
War was over.
That was it.
Getting back, coming into Europe, didn't you feel like you were pushing your luck some? That you've been in here a long time.
Well, I didn't feel that way at all. I had the experience, and it's always my experience that experience pulled you through.
Well, you had a lot of that.
Yes, 432 sorties, missions.
That's a lot of missions.
Yes, it is. I didn't realize. Some of them were tough ones too, and especially the 100 dive bombing that we did while I was with CO of 417 Squadron in, north of Rome in Italy. So then going back to, I saw the submarine pen that had been damaged by that 22,000 pounder. And what was there to say? If Hitler had seen them, he'd probably have croaked right there. Yeah. Oh, back to Bournemouth. There was a manning station, manning pool in southern Britain, on the south coast, and we hear all the stories about, the Battle of Britain and how they had prepared for the German landing there.
Mm-hmm.
And Bournemouth now, when the war was over, of course, was just a manning pool and sending the troops back home. It was for mostly pilots and aircrew personnel. So as a squadron leader, I had to march him around. I was a senior man there for a couple of weeks, and we started interviewing returned prisoners of war, Canadian returned POWs, and went through a few thousand of them in about a month or so in interviews and
what sort of things were you trying to find out from them in the interviews?
How hard they worked to get away, to escape. Escape and evasion was a must with the British and Canadian forces. Yes, you had to try to escape. If you didn't, you were eligible for court-martial when you got back. They were tough on POWs.
Yes. Did you find that most of the people you interviewed had tried to...
Invariably. A lot of them had made it and gotten free. One of the fellows I had trained with at Windsor was shot down and taken prisoner of war in the Straits there, Straits of Messina, in Italy, and between Sicily and Italy, and he taken prisoner of war during that battle, and he evaded all the time. He was the rest of the war. Another one was a relief of Warsaw, and a New Yorker who was a navigator on a bomber in the relief of Warsaw. He evaded right in Poland.
That's hard.
He knew Polish a little bit, and he tied up with a Polish fellow, and I don't know. I don't remember whether he was an escapee or evader or what he was, but he was on the commissioning board with the interview board with me, and he had gotten back, of course, and there were two of us squadron leaders on the interviewing board there. And I remember one fuzzy-cheeked air gunner he had to kill two, what you call, their police, Gestapos, two Gestapos to get away from him and escaped. And evaded the rest of the war.
Tough bunch.
Yeah, well, orders were orders, you know.
And so when the war in Europe ended, you stayed there in England for a while longer, or?
No, because by September I was discharged honorably discharged, retired actually they call it. Retired in Montreal, I think it was Manningpool, and so I was out by middle of September in 45.
You came back to Ironwood?
Came back to Ironwood and, yeah. I don't remember, well, deer hunting season was a little way off, and so just hung around, monkeyed around till deer hunting season came along. Went deer hunting, hacked a few bucks down. For a change of pace.
Different kind of shooting then.
Change of pace.
What
Yeah.
Was there ever any concern that you were putting your citizenship, American citizenship, at risk by joining a foreign military?
No, because when you sign up with the military, you automatically become a citizen.
Canadian.
Canadian.
British.
I was with British squadrons too.
Uh-huh. But then you could come back all right and be an American citizen.
Whichever you chose.
Okay.
No worry.
Any?
Especially with the record I had.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Uh-huh.
I should say. A couple of DSO at the DRC.
Do you still have the ribbons and the?
Oh, yeah, I got them down from where they were located upstairs, and I brought them down. I had it there. The Distinguished Flying Cross and the Distinguished Service Order, the Flying Cross and Service Order.
Turn that light on.
Yeah.
Were these presented in a formal ceremony?
Well, they would have been if I had wanted to go, but to Buckingham Palace or then to the consulate in Detroit later. But I didn't feel it. I needed to go. This is the old logbook.
Uh-huh.
Right there.
These are, the British do medals very well.
Yes, they do. And the ceremonies especially, that was another thing. No, at the time, I didn't know what my thoughts were really. I figured the war was over, and that's good enough. We won, and so we let it go at that. Ribbons and all that. Oh, sure. Nice to have them.
Yeah, you'd be proud of these. They're not very.
Service order. That if I'd been with the American forces and won that, why I'd be what you call eligible for the what do they call that? An outfit? No. I had a letter from one of the commanders of the Legion of Honor.
Oh, uh-huh.
They, it must be somewhere in this. There's probably some citations in one of these envelopes. But so what citations? Like my brother Arnie always said, the war's over, let's forget about those things. That is probably something other. This could be the citation. Maybe. Either that or there's some photos in there that would...
Photos looks like.
Photographs and all kinds of things.
that's you, Sandy
Yeah,
Kallio.
yeah, that's the old Sandy. There must be some.
It's interesting to see an American in the RAF.
Yeah, well, it was, and strangely enough, there were quite a few of us. That's an interesting one. On the way home, we stopped in the old, to visit the city of Windsor, and they took us one of their big schools that had been. They used to send parcels to the squadron,
Oh, uh-huh.
being the city of Windsor squadron, and 417
I see.
designated, and they were interested. It was good to see that all the youngsters, how happy they were. The war was over.
Mhm.
The soldiers and the airmen were back home. Yeah, he was from London, Ontario. That other fellow there, Dusty Miller,
Oh, uh-huh.
and that was the mayor of Windsor actually. Being he's the old fighter pilot.
Yeah. Hurricanes and Spitfires, rather than Mustangs and Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I'd like to have flown P-38s. A friend of mine from Wakefield flew them, and he and I get together. He flew out there in the Mediterranean theater too, and
Oh, really?
so we get quite a lot to talk about occasionally.
Mhm.
He's a logger now, and he's about 8 years younger than I am. And there wasn't anybody as old as I was in the Air Force then. Those years. They were all younger than I.
All kids, I imagine they
Yeah.
called you the old man.
Oh, sure, naturally. But they like to follow the old man sometimes.
Oh, yes.
They were happy he was around.
Well, somebody who knew how to fly well and was lucky and had a lot of experience, you can see why.
Yeah.
Are you ever in touch with anybody from the squadron? Do you write back and
Oh.
forth? Or?
Well, a few of them have been through, and brothers of the one who got killed earlier on, the one from Toronto, his brothers have been by, and a few of them have been by, and most recent was quite a few years ago now, from London, Ontario, a fellow who was in the squadron when I matter of fact, he was in the hospital when I was got in there. Crazy thing about that hospital, I never cared much about going to hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Friday before I landed in the hospital, we went to see a fellow who had got shot down, Canadian squadron. He was a flight commander in the squadron, and he got shot down, and luckily he made it home in short time, and in the hospital. We went to see him in the hospital, and following Monday, I was in hospital myself.
You want to stay away from those things.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear anything about the fellow from Buenos Aires?
Yes, I met him afterward at the Montreal station when the war was over, and he said he was going to get married shortly, and he delayed that too long, and by the time I had the wire from him that he wanted me to be his best man, I was up at Point Barrow flying for Queen Alaska Airlines in 46.
Uh-huh.
So he took a long time making up his mind about getting married. I had a kiss from his bride even. I mean, young lady who became his bride, I should say.
So you kept flying after the war then?
Oh, yes, I bought an aircraft actually from Fontana, Iron Mountain, and gave everybody rights, whoever wanted one those years. And kept it at the airport for a while, and then finally sold it toward early summer, and sold it, and I made a mistake. I should have taken that and flown that to Alaska, and I'd have made much better money with it. I didn't make very many dollars when I sold it to Lower Wisconsin. If I had flown it to Alaska, I could have doubled the price in what I paid for it. I made a trip with it to Arizona. Flew down to Rockford on skis and then took skis off, put the wheels on and flew from there to Tucson, Arizona. I went down, I had promised I'd visit the family of a friend of mine who got shot down in Italy, who got killed in Italy, I should say. Lance Wade, he was another American. He was with the squadron. He was like an older brother when I first went to squadron, you know. And he'd coach along and do this and don't do that sort of thing. And we just talk once in a while. After the war, he was going to be sheriff in his county. I was going to be sheriff in Gogebi County, and we were going to fly back and forth to visit each other occasionally. But he got killed, and I went to see his folks. I found them. I went down to Texas, and I went to Austin, actually. And they hadn't ever heard of Lance Wade. So then I knew he had flown in Arizona, in the Tucson area. He and another fellow who joined up with him, actually. So I flew to Tucson, and sure enough, I found a newspaper man there who knew Lance Wade, and the other fellow who got killed in Western Desert early on, who had flown with Lance, and so I found out where his folks were from. They were just below Jacksonville in East Texas, in Pine Country, at Walker, Texas. Reclaw was the name of the town. Walker, I call it first, but it's Walker turned backwards, the letters, Reclaw. Anyway, I met Lance's folks out there, and father, mother, a sister, and a brother. And they had gotten his logbook already now, all his, but his body had not been returned yet. So this was in February of 46. So, but then we wrote to each other, the daughter and I wrote to each other for a while afterwards, and she notified me when I was up in Alaska later that summer that they had sent Lance's body back, and he was buried in their local cemetery at home. So that worked out okay.
Lost some good men over there, sounds like.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's the biggest loss of all. That young minds, dedicated minds, and to think that Billy Mitchell had been court-martialed. World War II would never have happened. Billy Mitchell was court-martialed in 27.
27.
27, yeah. I was in high school, and I was a junior in high school, and I remember that so well. Of all the things that the Navy, well, he proved to them what the bomber could do. An old Keystone bomber, they were dropping bombs by hand out of the bomb bay and dropping them on that German
the battleship there.
Battleship, yes, and they clobbered the battleship and sunk it. Still, they wouldn't believe. So they court-martialed him on the basis of insubordination. Of all the things, can you imagine that? And they made it stick. Holy smokes! The Air Corps was so weak then. It was just a half brother sort of the army at the time. And they couldn't fight it, you know. They couldn't fight the Navy. If they had cared to listen to Billy Mitchell, he would have started building up the Air Force right away. And we would have aircraft for aircraft with the Germans. What are they building now? Let's build the same. Why not? They want to fight, we'll give it to them.
One of the things I usually ask, and it's not easy to answer, just wondering how you were different at the end of the war from where you were when you went in. Because a lot of things changed and a lot of things happened.
I was still as eager because of the dirt the Germans did to the Jews. I learned earlier on, I was getting the old, I don't know if you ever had a copy of a Ken magazine. It was published in the 30s.
What's it called?
Ken, K-E-N.
K-E-N, no.
Scottish word for understand.
Oh, to know, yeah.
To know, yes.
Understand.
Yes, Ken.
Uh-huh.
And I was reading in there what the Germans were doing to the Jews. And that didn't, what the heck, once they got the Jews down, they'd be right on our necks next.
So this is something that needed to be done.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was glad I had a part of it. I've told Vero that many times.
You had a good part of it, a big part.
And to survive it besides.
Mm-hmm.
It was a terrible loss of the young men who we forfeited to them in a way. Well, not really that, but we sacrificed.
Oh, yeah.
Sacrificed to win the war. Rather carelessly at times.
I'm afraid that's true.
Yes, that's what hurt me, bothered me.
Anything that you think about particularly that comes to mind when you say that?
Well, that was the main thing, that alone. Because I happened to see one of the Birkenau, I think it was, went to see it, but the stench was so great, I didn't, beyond the gate, I didn't care to go inside to see it. No, it had hit me earlier on, and I always felt that whatever we do, let's not forsake the Jew. I mean, he's done so much for civilization that in the name of heaven, let's not do anything harsh to the Jew, like Hitler did, for instance. We shouldn't. We have to watch that and be careful that we don't. No, I felt strongly about that. Way back, early on. And so it wasn't hard for me to get up there and face their fire. I should tell you, I think I mentioned that I'm in a local club here, Ironbirds. Well, I don't know if I mentioned it at Ironbirds, but I told the couple about it. That a German bomber went over one day when we were at our noon lunch. And he dropped one down, and that thing split open, didn't explode, right in the mess tent, between the ropes in our mess tent. Didn't they? Made in Czechoslovakia, yes. A nice big fat bomb, it just burst open, and there's the powder even spilled on the ground.
You were lucky, too.
Well, I know.
Well, you have to be lucky.
92 Squadron aircraft came down, and with a hang-up, as soon as he touched down, that bomb was let go and kept on rolling in front of him down the perforated steel planking we were flying off then in Italy, rolling down in front of him.
It didn't go off?
Didn't explode. Then another one again later on where was it, up near Florence, up there, one of the airfields. he came in with a hang-up, and he was wingman for our then wing commander, and the wing commander said it's perfectly safe to come in. I told my squadron personnel, as a squadron leader then, I told them that we have a hang-up. You either lose that bomb or before you come into land, or you bail out. Whatever you think is most appropriate, and you won't be faulted for it. And he barely touched down, and a sheet of flame down the runway. Explosion and sheet of flame. It was hard to see. I felt sorry for old Winco then.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was going to be a Winco later, and I would take over rocket typhoons in Italy or in Germany. That's what I was designated for. Wing Commander Rocket Typhoons.
Those were deadly tough aircraft.
Yeah, six rockets on it, under the wings, and one rocket was as good as a 500-pounder. There was much damage. That's what we should have had in Italy. Didn't it much easier. They could have put those racks under the Spitfire. They could have done it just as well. That Spitfire was a versatile aircraft, and good maneuverable aircraft. You never had to worry about it.
Was that the time that ME-109 put those 6 slugs between you? Was that the closest
that
call that you had, that one?
Well, I got hold quite a few times. Well, for instance, the day I landed the crash, I must have gotten hold somehow, because that under didn't work right, so I must have been hit somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Which landed me in hospital for 4 months.
How's your knee now?
Oh, it's back. It's back. I still work it. It's kind of an ugly looking thing with big bones in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm. But it works.
But it worked. It was cracked down here. The tibia was cracked all the way down. So, so it works. What a long time to heal that thing. One nice thing about it was we noon meal time, we always got a bottle of Guinness.
Good.
That was supposed to be a bone healer.
Oh,
Yeah, according to all the information, medical information we could get.
Uh-huh.
Good bone healer. Yeah, Alaska. Then Alaska in '46. I landed in Alaska. I flew up there with Pan Am. Pan Am was still flying passengers up there, and flew up to Ketchikan, and then got off at Anchorage, and went up to Palmer and looked at the old farmers up there, and then had a look at Mount McKinley, and then went to Fairbanks, and went to Wien Alaska Airlines, and got a job for me. Oh, sure, we'd be getting a contract here pretty soon. Yeah, we'd need another pilot or two. Yeah, you stick around. Meantime, as a mechanic, I had a job with a Jorgensen who was fixing aircraft there, rebuilding aircraft, and they said all kinds of need for mechanics around here, right? You get a job any day you want. If you have any friends coming up, if they worked on aircraft before, send them over. So by July or August, I was with Wien, and flying mostly in the old 247Ds, about a 16-passenger aircraft. We were flying tourists from Fairbanks to what you call Nome,
Juneau.
and then up to Kotzebue, and occasionally up to Point Barrow even. And but mostly to Nome, Kotzebue, and back. We'd have them back to and when you cross the Arctic Circle, you rang bells and lights turned on, all kinds of funny things to keep the tourists interested.
How long did you stay in Alaska?
Well, that first time I wintered there and flew out of Point Barrow on oil exploration. That contract came through that I was told when I went to Weens for a job first. And then in June the following year, I came down the highway and with a fellow, he was going to, he was attending the college at Fairbanks, the university, and then he was coming down by himself. So I came down to Seattle with him, and then came on home and was home for a while, and deer hunting season again, and 47. Yeah, and then shortly after Christmas had a call. Sigurd Wien, the boss, was in Niagara Falls. They were waiting for an aircraft to be remodeled to civilian specifications. It was an Army C-46, Cargo 46, a Curtiss aircraft, a cargo aircraft about twice the size of twice the payload of the DC-3.
Mm-hmm.
So Sigurd said if it can get to Niagara Falls in a couple of days, why we'll give you a ride to Fairbanks and go back and fly up out of Point Barrow again. I said okay. So went to Niagara Falls and stopped in Milwaukee, picked up a load of meat and meat paid for the whole trip and to Fairbanks, and stopped in Edmonton too and for something else, and flew on to Fairbanks. And it was around Christmas time. Shortly after Christmas, the Christmas spirit was still in the air. We land in Fairbanks, and everybody's waiting for good meat, meat supplies for their holidays. Yeah, well, that's just about the story. A couple of years, then I flew up there another year, and when I left there, I was flying on skis on most of the time, and when I left there, I flew the aircraft onto a lake that was right near the hangar there, and the ice was floating. It was loose all along the edges, and it was floating. And Bill Law's mechanic said, let's put the wheels on so you can land when you get farther down country. And so they took the skis off, put the wheels on, and I landed at Bettles the first time on bare ground on the way back. That was, then I was out for a while, and I went to work at Montreal.
In the mine?
In the iron mine, sure. I'd worked there for about 18 months. And then shortly after that, worked at the airport for a while and flew their faster aircraft. Nobody else was qualified there in that crew at the time. So I flew their Clipper for them. Clipper, I think it was, yeah. Four place aircraft. And 55, I did some prospecting, uranium prospecting in between times. And 55, I went to see Copper Range Company about a job at White Pine. There I worked almost 20 years as a mechanic at White Pine. That was a good job. I like mechanicing. Next to flying, it was my favorite. Being a mechanic, a good mechanic.
Making things work.
Make things work. That was always interesting. In the meantime, I was working on some invention ideas too. Matter of fact, right today, the high school is working on one of the. I had a patent on it, a snow removal machine, and they liked the looks of the patent idea, and I never did anything about the patent. It's past usefulness anyway, and they're going to try to make something of it.
Still have a soft spot in your heart for the Canadians, do you?
Well, yes, of course. I have great respect for them. Yeah.
The ones I've known are good people.
Yes, and well, I never had a quarrel with any of them. And the fellow from Calgary, he had been a mechanic with the RCAF before the war, and he and I were so much alike in our experience, and when we had that tent together in Gambut, Maine, there, we scrounged around and found motorcycles. I found a German motorcycle, a shaft drive BMW. Lo and behold, and I found a sidecar even for it. And he found a South African Harley Davidson. So, and the fellow from Buenos Aires found an Italian Guzzi. Was the best bike of the bunch for riding over that camel thorn and through the boondle. Yeah, you're surprised how well sprung that Guzzi motorcycle was. But I had the shaft drive, a real solid machine, good machine. The last I saw it, there were 6 guys on it. They were scrambling. They were driving to the flight line, and they were going to take off on a mission. So I left the squadron then, and they took possession.
Sounds like you left with a lot of good memories and some hard ones.
Oh, well, between times, Jimmy and I, he's a fellow from Calgary, he and I dug our trench down, a yard down into the ground, and then we put sandbags another yard up along the walls, and we had the motorcycles, BMW, Harley Davidson, a Guzzi, and then we had an Auto Union car there, a Ford-made German personnel carrier.